Welcome to the next video. I want to cover a topic that I've already done in a previous video, but this time we're going to look a little bit further. So yes, I'm going to do the manufacturing cycle again, and that part I'm going to perhaps try and do a little bit quicker because I want to actually get to the stock ledger analysis. All right. So under stock, you've got your stock ledger, which shows all the stock entries. And I'd like to get to that. But before we can get there, we have to actually um, initiate a manufacturing cycle. So I'm going to do that again. Just a quick recap. There's my bill of materials. There's the default to bill of materials. Right. This describes what you need and the operations required to make a drone, and of course that, oh hang on, maybe I should rather show that to you. It consists of 4 leg modules, which of course is that. Alright, so that describes the leg module, same as a BOM. This part I'm going to go rather quickly now because I think I've covered it a little bit more detail in the previous video. So there's your operation and your materials. So same story. That is valid for the previous one is valid for this one in terms of the BOMs, and of course the workstations and the operations and the routing. Right, so let's get straight to it. I'm not going to do the production planning method. I'm just going to do the manual method. So we're going to say material request. There's our material request list. We generate a material request of a manufacturing kind. We say required date, which of course is the 20th. All right, what do we want to make? We want to make the leg module because before we can make the drones, we must make the leg module. So we want to make that. All right, how many of them? We want to make 4, and it must land up in the modules warehouse. Okay, so double check if there's any entries to be completed here. 4 to manufacture, and it goes to the modules warehouse. Yeah, that's fine. Right, let's save, and we submit that. All right, so from here we generate a works order. Okay, but maybe just before I do that, one thing that is important that I didn't highlight the previous video, I actually just went through the procedure. All right, one thing that is important is to always make sure that your bill of material, the costing on your bill of material, is up to date. All right, because this is now all about valuation. What is the value of the item that lands up in your store? All right. Now, of course, of particular interest is it depends on what your stock settings are in terms of valuation. You can either have moving average or FIFO, so that'll affect it in a significant way. Sorry, I was looking for my words there. I've got it set for FIFO, so first in, first out, and of course, average is it calculates an average. So what happens is if you buy one particular stock item at price A, and the next purchase you make is at B, there's a way it works out the valuation when you've got it set to average. All right. When it's FIFO, I've just got a page here. You search for FIFO valuation, you get to this website. I'm not going to explain it, but it explains the difference between FIFO and moving average. All right, you might want to look at that. I've got it set for FIFO, which means first in, first out. So the first one I use is the one that came in first, so it takes that price for the valuation. So that's rather important. All right, so that's the one thing that's important also, is to make sure that your rounding is set correctly, because that can also have an effect when it comes to when we evaluate the effect that all this transactions has on the accounts. But we'll get to that later when we look at the transfer of values and funds and stock values between all the accounts, the stock in hand, the expenses included in valuation, stock adjustment account, all that. All right, let's get going with our manufacturing cycle. We've got the material request. We were busy creating a works order, creating works order 25. Right, it's there. So, before, that's one thing I wanted to do. On the BOM, I just want to go to the BOM for the leg module and say update costing. All right, that updates this cost. All right. By the way, before I started the video, I actually purchased some stock, so there is some stock in there. I didn't want to add that to the video. It just makes it longer. Let me just have a look at these values. They look fine. If I could just quickly show you what the stock balance is in the stores. Generate a new report. We've got 10 of these, 5 of that, and 10 of those. All right, so I purchased that beforehand with a normal purchasing cycle. There's a video about that as well. Cool, let's get back to our works order. There's our works order. It uses multi-level BOM. The work in progress store is work in progress. The target warehouse is modules. Once we finish, these modules must go into the modules warehouse. All right. It shows the items that we require. Because we're requesting the manufacturing as 4, we're using 4 of each, because each leg module uses 1 of each. All right. There's the transfer of material is against the works order. There's the operation. It's the assembly of leg module at the module assembly workstation. All right, let's just double check. I don't think there's anything to be set up here. Source, warehouse is the stores. It shows there 10 available in the store, and so for each of these as well. All right, so I'm not going to go through all of those. This is the operation at the the module assembly workstation, and the operation is actually the assembly of leg module. Okay, that's fine. So this is all hunky-dory. We're making 4, and we submit that. All right. Now you'll notice it's creating a job card. All right, and we need to start the whole process. But before we do that, let's just go and check that our job card is correct. Just fill in the employee that's going to be doing that, and we save that, then that's fine. All right, just to recap, typically the production manager will handle the work order. All right, he'll control the work order, the starting and the stopping of the work order, and the person actually that does the job card is the guy on the floor that's going to collect the items from the work in progress store, make the leg module, and put it into the modules warehouse and close the job card. All right, so that's the procedure. First, you start the work order and you start that, then it generates a material transfer from the stores to the work in progress. All right. Just want to quickly check. Yeah, the setting seems to be fine. So we say save and we say submit. All right, just quickly this stock. I'm not going to do it for a particular warehouse. Just rebuild that, and you'll see there from the stores has now got 6, where it previously had 10. Now of that same unit, there's 4 in the work in progress. 6, 4. You can see that 4 has been transferred from the stores to the work in progress. All right, so the material has been transferred, and now we look at the job card, and it is in draft. Oh, we can just perhaps just double check work order is in process. All right, go back to the job card. And now the guy that's actually going to do the assembly must say start, and it'll populate this table. All right, so we say start, and we're now busy making the leg module. I'm going to let this run for 10 minutes because 10 minutes gives us a decent figure on our added value in terms of labor and electricity and consumables. Obviously the video is not going to run for 10 minutes. I'll fade that and I'll just add everything together. So after it's run for 10 minutes, you guys can join me again. For the moment, I'm going to just close the video and then we can carry on a little bit later. See you later. Right, almost 20 minutes. I decided to make that 20 minutes. So on 20 minutes, we'll say the process is complete of the assembly of a leg module. All right, so complete. We've completed the production of 4 units. And we submit the job card. Right, if we look at the job card, it's now completed. Going back to our work order, it's still in process, so we click on there. It now and it gives you feedback here. It knows that the assembly of the leg module is complete, so we say finish. Once again, just pointing out, the job card and the work order is done by two different persons, typically in a big company. In a small company, it could well be the same person. All right, so now it does the stock entry, all right, from work in progress to the modules. In other words, it's transferring that to the modules warehouse. All right. Now, just another thing, you can also update the rate and availability here if you didn't do it on the, in other words, if you didn't update it on the BOM. I did actually, so it's not necessary. So I'm submitting that. Right, now let's have a look at our stock. Stock balance. Let's just rebuild that. And we can see that the work in progress, all the work in progress units is 0. All the work in progress is 0. And of course the modules warehouse now has 4 of leg modules. And the stores have got 6 of that. That's the cap screw, the nut, it's got 6 because we had 10 in there and we used 4. All right, the 1 unit, the plates is still 5. We purchased 5, but we haven't used that. We can actually use that in the next step. Right, without further ado, now what I'll do is after the completion of the entire product, we'll draw a stock ledger. From the stock, we'll look at the stock ledger and then we'll analyze that in detail together with the accounts. And I'll draw up a nice diagram, what they call it, the T-chart, so that we can have a look at all that. But first, let's just complete our material request list. Once again, you can do this with a production plan as well. I'm just doing it this way, no particular reason. Manufacture, required date, 20th. What do we want to make? We want to make a drone. We want to make 1 and it must land up in the finished goods store. Let's double check there shouldn't be anything else that needs to be filled in. Finished goods. There's the account head for the expenses. That's right. Cool. Let's save. And then we submit that. And once again, That's the material request. All right, before we raise the work order, let's just go back to our BOM and just say for that particular drone, based on the fact that the modules has now just been manufactured, let's just say update costing. All right, so it updates all these costs. All right, and then we can go back to our, no, we haven't raised the work order yet. No, that's right, so we need to go back to our material request. There it's pending, so we select that and we say create a work order. Right, it's created the work order. Let's go and have a look at that. There it is, draft. We select that. Of course, now we need to unselect multi-level BOM, all right, so that it uses the modules and not, if you select multi-level BOM, it doesn't, because now it drills down. If you select multi-level BOM, it'll drill down to the actual raw items that we've already used, all right. So it's rather important now to unselect that. So it uses the modules from the modules warehouse. Okay, work in progress warehouse is that. Target warehouse is finished goods. Yes, that's the operations. Let's just double check here. Source is stores. We've got available 5. That's right. That the source is modules warehouse. We've got 4 available. We need 4. That's good. I think this is fine. Yeah. So everything is fine for this work order. Yeah. I'm always just going through it again and again because sometimes there's something that, especially now that I'm going quickly, I can quite easily miss, which would not be a good thing. So we say save, right, and we say submit. Okay, we submit works order 26, and it automatically creates a job card 27. All right, and we now need to start this process, hey, before the guy that's going to execute the job card can actually carry on. But let's just revise the job card. Let's just go back to work order. Yeah, it's not started. We select the job card and we click on there. Fill in who's going to do that. And we save that. All right, so now before the guy can actually start that, we need to actually initiate the work order, not started yet. So the work order has not been started yet. So we select that and we say start. Now it's going to generate the materials transfer. Once again, you can update the rate and availability. I'm using FIFO, and we did double check the rates. So it is correct, but if you want to at this stage update, just make sure that all this costing is correct. All right, but we'll go through all of this when we do the stock ledger reconciliation. All right, so we're transferring that from the stores to the work in progress. The completed modules we're transferring from modules warehouse to the work in progress. 4 of them, 1 of the first, and that's it. This is the material transfer. So we say save and we say submit. Right, manufacturing. Our work order is in process. We could have just gone straight there. Anyway, doesn't matter. Our job card now needs to be started again. All right, so I'm going to run this again. And once again, I'm going to pause the video. You guys don't want to look at 10 or 20 minutes of a clock that just sits there ticking. because now it's measuring the time. The guy is actually doing the job and the time has been measured. And of course, the costing is calculated based on previously defined costs per hour: electricity, salaries, consumables, rent, all those things. All right, so I'm going to pause the video again now, and you guys can rejoin me again just before, well, at a later stage at least anyway. So see you guys later. Good, welcome back. Just less than 15 seconds, 10 seconds to go. Then we can complete this operation. Right, so we say complete. We've completed the production of one product. And we submit our job card. All right, so we look at the job card. It's now completed. If we go to manufacturing and the work order, we'll see it's still in process. So the production manager needs to finish this. We've produced one unit. All right, now it creates a stock entry. All right, it takes it from work in progress, all the components that we had there, components and modules, and it ends up in the finished goods warehouse. All right, there's the valuations. We'll have a look at that valuations just now. So we say save, and we submit the stock entry. Right, let's just recap. Manufacturing, our work order is complete. Our job card is complete. And let's have a look at the stock. Stock balance, let's do it for all the warehouses. We rebuild it. Good. The finished goods now contains one drone, and there's all the valuations. The modules warehouse contains nothing. Previously it had 4. All right. And then of course, everywhere you see work in progress, well, let's just do some proper filtering here now. I think that's going to be easier. Work in progress. We just generate a report for that. You'll see all the components have been removed there. In stores, we should still have some because we actually purchased, oopsie, that's not how you spell stores. Oh dear. Sorry about that. Because we did previously have 10, 10, 10, 5. Let's just regenerate that. So we've got 6. We used 4 of these and then 1 of this. All right, so that's correct. The modules warehouse. Oh, we've got to generate the report. We did have 4, that's now 0. So in the finished goods, we should have 1 product. There we go. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll have a look at all these valuations. There's the entire, all the warehouses, all these valuations we are going to now look at by way of looking at the stock ledger. All right, we generate, there's the stock ledger. Okay, this means all the entries, stock related, that has been made for this production run. Keep in mind that before this video, I actually cleared all transactions. So all these transactions are related to this production run. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video again now. Just extract this. All right, we can export it to a CSV file, and then I'll load it into Excel and just make it a little bit more readable. All right, that's one thing that's nice about ERPNext is you can, all over the show, you can actually export your data to CSV file and then go ahead and analyze it in Excel. So that's what I'll do now. Let me just do a few calculations as well. One other thing I'm going to do is, this is just an example. It's not for this particular case yet, but I want to do something similar where you've got all your T accounts, your cash, your utility. Well, this is utility expense. We won't use that now. But all the various accounts, and show the flow of money and stock. And this is actually a very nice way of getting an overview picture of what actually happened with all the transactions we did. Remember, we did a purchasing cycle, although I didn't show that in the video. We did purchase some stuff, and then we had a material flow from the stores right to the finished goods when we manufactured something. So that's all reflected in these accounts. So I'll draw that up, and then I'll start the video, and we can just go through all of that data again. All right, so here goes the next interruption. I'll see you guys a little bit later. Right, welcome back. It's about the third time I'm redoing this video. Every time it turns out a bit long. So let me try and get this a little bit shorter. Okay, what we've done is we did a purchase cycle. I didn't actually show that to you. I did it beforehand, but I did a manufacturing cycle, sub-assemblies and the full product. And then I went ahead and extracted the information from the general ledger. Let me just show you where that is. There's a general ledger, looked at all the transactions, and I also took a stock ledger and I exported it and I dumped it into Excel, which is that, and I colored it nice just to follow, for each type of transaction, just to follow the transactions. Okay, so what did I learn from this? Basically, I took an account, creditors, stock in hand, any of these, and I extracted that information. Let's see the stock in hand there. If I go to the general ledger and we say stock in hand, right, and it shows all the transactions there. Okay, and so I went for each and every one of these accounts and I punched in the debit credit. There's nice videos on YouTube explaining what is debit and credit. There's a way that I understand it because I'm not an accountant, I'm an engineer. But there's an easy way to understand that. Right, so I analyzed all these accounts. What did I actually do? Just quickly, yeah. I ordered some components. The VAT is included in the price. So some of that needs to go to VAT, some of that goes to the stock. Just another thing, if you actually did the material request, purchase order, receipt, purchase invoice, it would have gone through goods received but not billed. I think that's what it's called, before it goes to stock in hand. It first goes to goods received but not billed, and then when you pay it, it goes to stock in hand. Now I did it just purchase invoice, update the stock based on the purchase invoice, so it goes directly to stock in hand. Keep that in mind. All right, then I made a payment. Okay, took some money from the bank, paid the creditors. Then I did a manufacturing cycle. All right, that added some value to the product. That's the modules, the sub-assembly. That's the manufacturing cycle for the product. Nice round figures, just the way I've chosen it. So that increases the value of my stock, and then I sold it. All right, and I'll show you where that comes from. And of course now my total stock is less, so that's a credit. And of course my cost of goods sold increases, so that's a debit. I sell it for 2,300. Some of it is VAT, and some of it goes to sales. Not all of that is sales. It's only 2,000 Rand that's sales. All right, so this is how I drew this up. Quite insightful to follow the transactions like this. In fact, you can do it for anything. paying utility bills, etc., etc. Then, of course, I did a stock analysis. Why did I do it? If I go to one of the previous T-charts I did, I saw that these rather big 10 cents, I think sometimes it was 40 cents if I'm not mistaken, stock adjustment figures, and I was saying, why is this happening? Okay, back to our charts here. And that's when I started analyzing this stock ledger, and I found the following. That's the purchasing cycle. I'm purchasing stock. It goes to stores. It gets added to stores. That's positive. That's the valuation. Now I start my manufacturing cycle. It gets removed, -4. From the stores, it gets added, +4,444 into work in progress. All right. You'll notice there that the valuation is 43.4783, and there when it goes to work in progress, it only uses 478. 3 decimal places, 4 decimal places. Important, remember that. Then of course it gets taken out of work in progress, -4, and the resultant lands up in the modules, whereas +4. And so you can trace the transactions. For the product, I need some stuff from the stores and from the module stores. Minus, 4 of those, 1 of this. Where does that come from? From the BOMs. Go and have a look at the BOMs. Let me just quickly show you the BOM. I don't want to jump around too much because then the video becomes too long. There's the BOM for the product, and there you can see 1 of that plate and 4 of the leg module, which of course is that. So the first manufacturing cycle, if I want to call it that, was the module, and the second one was the product. All right. So there we take the plates and the leg modules from the work in there we take it away from the work in progress, and it ends up in finished goods. There's the value of my product. Remember I said to you, I'll tell you where that comes from. That's where that comes from. Very insightful to see that if you take, for instance, the construction of the leg module, you'll see the valuations here. If you add that up together, you'll see 130.435, and yet that's 130.935. That's because 2 Rand was added in terms of value for 4 modules. So each module gained 50 cents. Ridiculously small figures. I know it's going to be much bigger in real life, but that's the way I've configured the costing of the workstation. Just to quickly show you where that comes from. Under manufacturing, you go to workstation, and for each workstation you set up your cost. You'll see there nice round figures, which of course is not realistic, but it works for tracing the transactions. So every time a subassembly or a product gets added to its particular store, the value based on the labor, electricity, the added value gets added. All right. Now, if you look at this, where does that 0.1 cent come from? If you look carefully, that's 4 decimal places. Why does this happen? And this is why I actually included VAT in the 50 Rand that we bought this for, so that the actual value is a very it's a value that's got lots of decimal places. So once you start using it, you actually round it to 3 decimal places. Why? I'll show you just now. So there's rounding involved here, which is going to cause some small errors, and this is where this 0.1 cent stock adjustment comes from. All right. Another thing which I learned, and I'll show you where you said that, is this value. This is one purchase, so the value is that item. Based on how you set your valuation, you may have purchased the previous item at a slightly smaller price. Then you either use the first one you purchased first, or it's an average between the two. Where do you determine that? Oh, before I show you. And that, of course, will influence this valuation, all right, and determine the way the value, every time you do a material transfer. Let's go to, where's the best to pick this up? Let's rather go back to the general ledger and just pick up that material transfer. Right, these are all the material transfers. When you do a material transfer, it says, what's the value in and out? And it says, okay, well, there's a difference. Okay, and that would depend on how you set up your stock settings. Valuation, is that first in, first out, or is that average? Okay, I've got it FIFO for the moment. It works for me. You've got to determine whether it works for you. Which means, and you can go and Google this. I'm not going to go through this because then this video is going to be very long. FIFO is first in, first out. So whatever you purchase first, you use first, and that'll be the pricing. If it's average and the first purchase price was different than the second, than the third, it uses a way to calculate that average. You can go and Google how it calculates the actual valuation of that part then. All right, another important setting is on the global defaults, disable rounded. I've got that set. All right, and another thing in terms of rounding is under your system settings, you've got a heading date and number format. That by default is empty, so it says if not set, the currency precision will depend on the number format, which of course is 2 decimal places. I've set that to 3, and you may have noticed that on all the accounting reports, let's say, where's that now? Profit loss. I don't agree with this profit loss. I wrote my own one, but anyway, the point is there's 3 decimal places. That's where that comes from. And I found that if you work with 3 decimal places, you've got far less stock adjustment entries. Not of 10 cents and 40 cents, but only 0.1 cent. And that suits me. Obviously, you've got to decide if whatever works for you. All right, so that's very briefly how I analyze the transactions with my T-charts and, of course, my spreadsheet, and learned how I want to set up the rounding of my ERPNext so that these figures make sense if you audit them and work through them. Right, I hope that was useful, that you can go and analyze your own transactions.